on the shuttle.
I understand.
So that was really where we all of a sudden started going, uh-oh, there's other things to this entire system that we have to change. And the other part that I just wanted to answer real quickly is really our parking deficit didn't start with Buffalo Wild Wings. Our parking deficit started with the fact that our central business district does not have to provide for parking spaces. And that is not wrong in terms of zoning, but in terms of how we address it, in terms of planning as a city, we did not start early enough. We did not start 10 years ago when we started looking at how we would redevelop the downtown, how that would impact us, because it is based on the zoning that is here, the types of uses that are in this area that are causing that deficit. So it's to say that, you know, this place houses about 300 people, yes, where before it was an eyeglass center that had maybe 10 employees.
I know, it's a tough
So-
problem.
So our changes and uses are intensifying it, and we, as a city, we need to address it planning wise. And be smart about planning, look forward to where we're gonna go in the future. So that's-
Good luck.
Didn't Brian pay the parking fund because of the design of this building initially?
Yes, and that was part of the first payment in lieu of ordinance that we have in place now, which is based on if a property has existing private parking on its location, and if they're removing it to add additional square footage to their building, they have to pay into the payment in lieu of system that goes to the auto parking fund. So yes, that has already happened. This proposed idea for the CBD intensification of use would be different from that, because we're actually talking about the increase in usage, not necessarily an increase in how much space they've grown to.
One more before I'm just curious. Are you confident that our advisors are what you might call thinking outside the box, more creative? I bring it up to that I'm a Hilton Road corridor resident, you working very hard on the grassroots level to encourage people to do what I've done, which is refurbish a home and help develop that other side of the track, as we kind of call it. And it seems to me that in developing that aspect, the outskirts of Ferndale, we have so much going on here presently, that it might behoove us to think in terms of setting parking on the outside and getting people on the mass transit level. Some kind of continuous run trolley situation that it would work weather-wise. I know I'm thinking, very esoterically at this juncture, but I'm just curious as to, your confidence in our thinking outside the box and outside of just our parking deck and the usually not very effective solutions.
Well, one thing I can guarantee from the DDA side is that with business owners and entrepreneurs, or as entrepreneurs, that they typically do think outside the box. So that is, I think, one element that we add to it. And I think that's what we have to encourage, obviously, all governments to think a little bit more outside the box.
Which they're rare Ferndale.
But then it gets back to reality in terms of what can be accomplished and actually implemented. So, we can have great grandiose ideas, but it does have to be backed up.
And that's exactly why I created the parking committee I created, because small groups make better decisions than individuals. And so you get a few heads around the table and they come up with better plans, more creative plans. That's why Christina is a part of my parking committee, so she can bring in that perspective of the downtown business owners and the customers. I say this all the time, I don't have the market on good ideas cornered, all right? My job is to surround myself with the smartest people I can find and know more than I do. So that's my approach. If there's
Thanks for the compliment.
I don't know everything about everything, and I like to think I'm smart enough to know what I don't know. So I try to bring people together to find better solutions than I can come up with by myself. So if there's a better way to do it, then we're going to try to find it.
On that note, I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Veronica.
Yeah, I would actually like to ask Bob if he would be interested in having Brian be on his parking committee so that we have a direct link. to the city park committee.
I'd rather have Christina be that direct link.
Well, the thing is that Christina represents the whole board, Brian represents the parking committee, specifically the parking committee, and Christina has a lot of other, as the chairperson of the DDA, Christina's got a lot of other things to worry about, and that's why we have volunteers. And Brian's volunteered to do it, and I really think it should be him.
Okay, I'll think about it.
Hi, my name is Rich Long. I've been at the December parking meeting at City Hall. I want to bring your attention to an entire class of Ferndale resident that is being kind of overlooked in all this. And that's residents who live between Woodward and Allen Street. There are 2 apartment buildings, one across the street here on 9 Mile and one right next door. The concentric zone parking is hurting us. The way that I read it, it will create a hardship in that in this building alone, we have senior citizens, we have single women who work at night. I have a neighbor who takes his daughter to go get chemo, to ask people not to park here because it's a premium or hot zone, but to park a block away or 2 blocks or whatever, is really a hardship. And I want to know, first of all, are you thinking about people who live here? Because I hear that the DDA wants more people living downtown.
Yes.
What are you going to do about this?
Well, and actually, it's been brought up at the last couple meetings too, because there's been a few other residents who live here in the downtown area.
And you and I have talked too.
Yeah, and I think that definitely I think one of the things that we took back from the council meeting in December was how would those passes affect residential downtown area people. And although we haven't come back with a plan on that, I will tell you that that is in the works in the sense that we want to address that. And the DDA definitely does want to see more downtown living. And one of the things that as we increase downtown living in the area, I mean, obviously it improves the entire area, but one thing that the DDA Board of Directors will have to do, that once we have over 100 people living in the downtown area, we have to form an advisory committee that reports directly to the DDA board. So once that happens, then there will be much more input from residents living in the area to the board of directors. But in between that time, what we have done, and I mentioned that before, is that the parking committee is creating an advisory committee of just the parking committee, so we can have at least those discussions, not about, you know, overall downtown general issues.
I would like to be a part of this advisory
Great.
committee, the future one, but I'd also like to be a part of what's going on now.
Okay. Yes.
Because we are neighbors, we're your neighbors too.
Absolutely, yep.
A house is not always a home, sometimes it's a mansion, sometimes it's an apartment.
Right.
And I've lived here for a decade, and it hurts me, it's hardship enough for me coming home from the airport and having to walk a whole city block with luggage. And I can't imagine what people who have disabilities or people who, it's even more of a hardship for them to have to do that. The way that I read the concentric zone idea back in December was that for me living right here next door, this would be off limits. And to me, that's hardship, and I really wish you would
Yep.
reconsider, you know, I'm not asking you to grant us favorite status or special status, but we live downtown, and my building was built in 1917, before Ferndale was a city. And like all the other things on this block, we don't have our own dedicated parking, but you know, we're kind of in a special situation, so
Just so-
whatever you can do for us.
Just
we
so you,
appreciate it.
just so you know, you specifically have come up in the parking meetings, and the things that you have said to me and to Christina, and that is actually one of our big points. Literally, it's one of our bullet points, is helping the apartment, the people who live in the apartments in the downtown area. So, yes, and I would love for you to be on the parking committee, yes.
For 1 second. Rebecca?
Have you considered the idea of like a people mover that they have in Detroit?
No. That's actually, the people mover in Detroit in the history of urban